Hello, and welcome to another video. Today, I'll be talking about what to expect when attending your very first Magic the Gathering pre-release. When this video comes out, we'll be about a week away from the Duskmourn pre-release, but the information that I share is going to be applicable to any pre-release, no matter the set. For today, I'll be covering what a pre-release is, what you need to do before attending a pre-release, how the event itself works, and some advice for attending your first pre-release event. I know this is a much different video style than I normally do, but I do hope you find this helpful. And if you are already well versed in attending pre-releases and magic events of all kinds, I invite you to stick around and relax nonetheless. And if there is anything that I miss in today's video, I would love for you to help out all of the new players here and leave any advice or resources that you have down in the comments as well. Alright, so I am going to be making a couple of assumptions here. First, I am assuming that you already know the basics of how to play Magic the Gathering. Your rules knowledge doesn't have to be perfect by any means, and you may consider yourself a beginner. That is absolutely fine, as long as you have a handle on the general rules and the structure of how the game is played. I will also be assuming that this is your first time playing in a local game store. Maybe you've gotten some experience with Magic by playing Arena or playing at home with friends, but haven't yet ventured out to the local game store for the purpose of playing in a Magic event. So I'll be covering everything that you need to know about how a pre-release event itself works. And if you have only ever played Arena, I am going to cover how to play paper Magic in an event, in case this is your very first time. So before we really get started, let's first talk about what a pre-release is. A pre-release is an event that happens before the release of a new Magic the Gathering expansion, or what I will be calling a set. New sets are generally released about 4 times a year, and 1 week ahead of the official release date of these products, players have the opportunity to play the set for the very first time in pre-release events. Pre-releases are tournaments that are played in the limited sealed deck format. This means players are provided with 6 booster packs of cards at the event, which they will use to build their decks with. Pre-releases are great entry points for playing in Magic tournaments, because they are generally pretty casual and low-stakes events. But players of all experience levels enjoy playing in these events, and the environment is very welcoming for new players. Because of the nature of everyone playing with brand new cards for the first time, pre-releases are generally fairly relaxed rules enforcement level, meaning we expect that mistakes are going to happen. Most honest mistakes really aren't going to incur a penalty, and players are usually pretty forgiving if you do make a mistake. So now that we have pre-releases defined, let's talk about what you are going to need to do before playing in one. The Wizards Store and Event Locator is a great way to find stores in your area and their schedules of events. So I will leave a link to that in this video's description so that you can find it. Once you find a store in your area that is hosting a pre-release, you may want to call them and confirm when their pre-release events are happening. Usually there will be multiple pre-release events that run throughout the entire weekend, so it's good to just confirm when those are. And also ask if you need to register ahead of time in case the event fills up. I will just quickly point out here that if you see a pre-release event listed with Two-Headed Giant in the description, this is a special format of playing Magic where you enter with a partner and you play games 2v2. I'm not going to cover the details of Two-Headed Giant in this video, but I did want to mention it just so that you're aware. It is a very fun way to play Magic, but maybe just avoid it if you are looking for a normal 1v1 Magic experience. So anyway, now that you have found a pre-release event that you want to play in, what else should you be doing to prepare? I find it helpful to familiarize myself with the new cards, and especially any new and returning mechanics that are in the set. Even though the pre-release is the first time that the cards are available to play with, the new set is actually fully revealed before the pre-release happens. And this is where I will call on any experienced Magic players watching this video to help out and leave your favorite resources down in the comments. Personally, I like to use Scryfall to look through all of the cards as they get revealed. But for a more robust understanding of the mechanics and how the cards play, there are a variety of videos and podcasts that I like to get my information from. If you are not familiar with Loading Ready Run, they usually have a pre-release stream that happens a week before the actual pre-release, and I would highly recommend checking them out. And then they also chop up the stream into smaller videos that get posted to their YouTube channel, so it's a little bit easier to digest. But I would especially recommend checking out their judge video, where they review all of the set mechanics. I think it is a really well explained and comprehensive look at those. They will also give you a look at what it's like to open up the pre-release kits and build their decks. You get to see them play their matches for the first time, and I think it's really helpful for understanding how the cards work, and they might catch some of the common mistakes that players could run into when playing the set for the first time. So it's cool to kind of see them test drive the set for you. There is also usually an early access event for Magic streamers that happens a few days before the pre-release. So some Magic streamers will get to play with the set on Arena for the first time. That is pretty cool to watch. So if you have any favorite Magic streamers that participate, make sure you call them out in the comments as well. Another thing I like to watch is the judge episode of the Good Luck High Five podcast, which they'll usually do about a week before the pre-release. And similar to what I talked about with Loading Ready Run, they'll have a judge go through and explain all of the new and returning mechanics in the set, as well as any card-specific notes or interactions that you should be aware of. And I know I've definitely learned things from these episodes that weren't obvious from just reading through the cards on my own. There's also Gavin Verhey's YouTube channel called Good Morning Magic, which I like to pop into now and again, especially before a pre-release. Gavin is a magic designer and has some insider knowledge on the set that I think is really fun to hear about. And he'll usually offer up some pre-release primers and deck building guides for the new set, which I think have a lot of good information in them. And then if you want a more detailed look on every individual card in the set, there are a number of folks that will go through and do reviews of every single card. These reviews are of course very long, but I do find it helpful to hear their thoughts on how some individual cards might perform. Limited Resources and Lords of Limited are ones that come to mind for me, as well as the written set reviews over on Channel Fireball. But again, if you have any resources that you like, make sure you drop those down in the comments as well. So you've located your pre-release event, you have prepared for the new set, but what do you actually need to bring with you when you show up to play? Technically nothing. You can just show up and pay your entry fee, and they will give you everything that you need. However, I do have some recommendations for you. I would consider it necessary to bring a pen and paper. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Even just a folded up piece of paper will do. This is for keeping track of your life total and your opponent's life total, or anything else that you might need. You can write down cards that you want to remember from your opponent's deck for you to reference when you're sideboarding. You can make tokens out of it or keyword counters, +1/+1 counters, anything like that. So I am a huge advocate when it comes to pen and paper for Magic, but I won't go too far into the weeds on that one. It's also a good idea to come prepared with the Magic Companion app, if that is what your store is going to be using for the event. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but you would just install the app and log in with the same account that you use for Arena, and then the store will provide you with a code to enter the pre-release with, and this app is where you will be able to see your round pairings and report your match results. Though it isn't 100% necessary to have the app to do either of those things, but I did want to mention it just in case your store asks you to use it. Some other things that I think are useful to bring with you if you have them are dice, which you can use as counters or to track things, or randomly determine something. Bring sleeves if you have them. These will protect your cards and make it much easier to shuffle your deck. And if you are playing a set that has double-faced cards in it, then opaque sleeves like these ones are especially important. A playmat, which isn't totally necessary, but I think it improves the play experience. And I think it's nice for defining your space at the table. I would recommend bringing a snack and some water. Pre-release events are usually at least 4 hours long, I would say, If you think roughly an hour of build time plus an hour per round for 3 rounds, though it could be even longer. So I would say keeping some food and water with you is pretty important. And then some less important but still useful things that I like to have are basic lands. I like to bring my own basic lands to any event that I play in. That way I don't have to leave my table during deck building or scrum with any other players at the land station. And I like that it's a little bit of self-expression that I get to put into my deck. And then finally, I like to bring some tokens. So you will get tokens from opening your packs, but it's usually not quite enough. So I like to bring some of my own. And even if they aren't the right type of tokens and I have to repurpose them, I still like to have them on hand. But yeah, those are my recommendations. But I would love to know if there is anything else that you like to take to pre-releases. Let us know down in the comments. Alright. So that covers everything that you need to do to prepare for your pre-release. Now let's talk about what happens at the event itself. So let's imagine that the day is here. You should plan to arrive at your pre-release probably 15 to 30 minutes ahead of the start time of your event. And that's because you need to be registered and present ahead of the start time. Depending on the size of your pre-release, registration might take some time. For instance, 30 people all trying to register just 5 minutes before the start of the event is not great. So you want to make sure that you leave some buffer room here. Once you arrive at the store, you'll want to locate where you need to go to sign up and pay for your entry. You may receive your pre-release kit now, or you might receive it later when you are seated for the start of your event. But if they do give it to you now, just make sure you do not open it until you are instructed to. If you are comfortable with doing so, you may also want to mention to the person that you're registering with that this is your first time playing in a store. Even though pre-releases are geared towards newer players, it is helpful for the staff to know the experience level of the players in their event so that they can give instructions accordingly. Once you are all registered, just take a moment and familiarize yourself with the play space. Some things that you might want to look for are the table numbers and the basic land station. When you get paired for your matches later, you will be assigned to a table, so just make sure you can see where the table numbers are now so that you know where to go. And then during deck building, if you didn't bring your own lands, then you're going to need to borrow some. The store will make basic lands available for you, and they'll probably tell you where they are during the announcements, but if you have time now, just see if you can scope out where those are. And since you will be in the store for a while, make sure you know where the bathrooms are and where you can go to refill water. Other than that, if you have some downtime before your event starts, check out the rest of the store, talk to other players, or just relax. Alright. So let's say that your event is now starting. You will be seated at a table and a member of the staff is going to kick off the event and tell you what to do. You will probably have 50 minutes to an hour to open your kit and build your deck, which can actually go by pretty fast. But if you need extra time, you can just ask and they will probably accommodate you. Your kit will have a little informational insert in it that goes over the basics of deck building. And I have a bunch of pre-release kit and sealed deck building videos on my channel that you can check out if you want to see that process. But to quickly summarize, you will be building a 40 card minimum deck out of the cards from your kit. You can only use the cards that come from your own kit plus the basic lands, and you cannot trade cards with any other players during the event. Like we talked about, the basic lands are available to borrow from the store, but please remember to return your basic lands when you are done for the day. If you finish building your deck with extra time on the clock, I would suggest trying to draw some practice hands to get a feel for how your deck plays. And these events are continuous construction, which means if you want to make changes to your deck in between rounds, you are absolutely welcome to do so. But again, just make sure that you are only using cards that you opened at the start of the event. Alright. So once the deck building portion concludes, it is finally time to play. And I'm going to spend some time getting into the details here, because if you have only ever played Magic on Arena, then you may not have ever had to think about going through some of these motions. So I did want to cover them for you here. In my experience with newer players, sometimes these things get missed and that is okay. I know Arena glazes over some of these steps and they aren't always obvious. So that is why we are talking about them now. So before a round begins, the match pairings are going to be posted. These tell you who your opponent is going to be for the round and which table number to play at. The pairings will be shown to you in the companion app or posted somewhere visible in the play space. For example, my store puts the pairings up on a big TV screen so that we can all see it. Once you are seated and the round timer begins, you will need to stay at your table until your games are done. So you can't just get up and leave your table in the middle of a round unless your games are completed. So no just getting up and going to your car or to a vending machine or anything like that. But these things can be done if you have time in between rounds. If you do need to leave your table during a round, just make it clear to your opponent and try to inform a judge or staff member if you can. Do not take any cards with you or anything from the active game with you. The winner of a match is determined by playing up to 3 games. The first player to win 2 games is the winner of the match. So on Arena, you may be accustomed to best of 1, but these rounds are going to be best of 3. When you and your opponent are both seated for the match, you are going to shuffle your deck thoroughly and then present your deck to your opponent to cut. This goes for any time you shuffle your deck, whether it is the beginning of the game, resolving a mulligan, fetching a land, or anything like that. You must give your opponent the opportunity to cut your deck. So here's what that might look like. You just put your deck kind of between yourself and your opponent. they will give your deck a cut like this. Or they might pick it up and give it a little shuffle. Or they might decline to shuffle and just give it a tap. Those are all totally fine. After your opponent cuts, you can draw your opening hand of 7 cards. But make sure that you do not look at it yet, and there is a reason for this. So you can determine who is going first however you want, but I would say that rolling dice is pretty typical. Usually I would say something like, would you like to roll high to see who goes first? We will roll the dice, and then whoever gets the higher roll will win the die roll. That person gets the choice of if they want to go first or second. Usually you just choose to go first. Once you know who is going first and second, then you can take a look at your hand and decide if you will be keeping it. The player who has chosen to go first will announce first whether they are keeping or mulliganing their hand. And this is just a small advantage that the second player gets. They might want to adjust their decision based on whether the first player is keeping or mulliganing, though probably not. But yeah, so for your opening hand, you just want to make sure that you have a mix of lands and spells that you can cast. If your hand doesn't look viable, you can mulligan, which means you just put your hand back and then draw a new one. To mulligan, you just announce that you are not keeping your hand. You'll shuffle your hand back into your library, let your opponent cut your deck, and then draw 7 more cards as normal. Then you choose whether to keep or mulligan again, and once you have kept your hand, you put a number of cards equal to the number of times you have mulliganed onto the bottom of your deck. When both players have kept their hands, you begin playing the game, and remember that the player who goes first is not going to draw a card on their first turn. You will have 50 minutes on the round clock to complete your best of 3 games. If your game is still going when the round clock expires, then you'll have 5 additional turns to complete your match. The active player, meaning the player whose turn it is when the round timer ends, is turn 0. Once the active player passes their turn, it becomes turn 1. Once that player passes, it'll be turn 2, and so on. If no winner is determined by the end of 5 turns, then the game is a draw. Match results can be reported within the companion app or directly to the person who is running your event by telling them who won the match and how many games each player won. For instance, I won my match 2-1. That is pretty much it. If you do run into any issues during your match, such as you would like clarification on how a card works, or you and your opponent disagree on how a spell resolves, then there are some steps that you can take here. At the beginning of your event, there may have been someone who identified themselves as a judge, or someone who is here to answer any questions during the event. It is best that you ask these people if anything comes up, rather than asking your opponent or any of the players around you. You might not get a correct answer from other players, which could add layers of confusion onto a situation, so I wouldn't recommend it. Judges are here to help and they want everyone to have fun. If your event has a judge, this person is here to help players and to make sure that the event is running smoothly. They have chosen specifically to be here, and they want to be here. There is absolutely no shame in calling a judge for help, and you are not in trouble if a judge is called on you. However, judges can never give you any advice about what to do. So asking them if you should attack or play a certain spell is not something that they will be able to answer for you. But they can confirm if a spell will have the effect that you think that it does before you cast it, and things like that. To call a judge over to your table, just pause your game, stay in your seat at your table, raise your hand and shout the word judge as loudly as you can, and then keep your hand raised until you are acknowledged. If you have a question that you would like to ask out of earshot of your opponent, for example, about a card in your hand that you don't want your opponent to know about, you are allowed to step away from the table to ask your question. You will still need to remain at your table until a judge arrives, but you can just tell them when they get there that you would like to ask your question away from the table, and there you go. And I think that just about covers it. Let's talk a little about what happens at the end of the pre-release, and then we will wrap up. So first of all, if you need to leave before your event ends, just make sure that you inform the staff so that they can drop you from the event. This will prevent them from pairing you with someone in the next round when you are not there. And you'll do this just by approaching whoever has been handling the round pairings and taking match results, and telling them that you would like to drop from the event. Whether or not you leave the event early, make sure the results of your last match have been reported so that you aren't holding up the end of the round. And the end of the pre-release is otherwise pretty unceremonious. If your event has prize support, then prizes are generally awarded at the end. And the prize structure can vary depending on where you are. For instance, you could get a pack per match win, or there could be some number of packs that you get based on your overall record in the tournament. And I will also just mention here that you are not allowed to offer anything, prizes included, in exchange for a match result. That could get you disqualified from your event, so do not do it. And yeah, I think that just about covers it. The last round will end and prizes are given out. If you win any, then congratulations and enjoy them. Again, make sure you return your basic land, clean up after yourself, and thank the staff for working the event. That's it. I hope you have so much fun playing at your first pre-release, and if you have any other questions about what to expect when playing at a game store for the first time, please drop them in the comments section and I would be happy to help you out. Or if there is any other topic that you would like me to make a video about, let me know as well. For you experienced players, is there anything I missed that you would like to add? Leave a comment and let me know. And with that, I wish you the very best. You've got this. If you found this video helpful, I would love it if you would hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll be back with new Magic the Gathering ASMR videos every Monday and Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.